All right. All right. So now that we missed recording that entire beautiful introduction, I'll get started with the presentation. 1 second. All right. More people are coming. I'm just gonna start now since I'm recording. I'll post it up. People can see what they missed if they watch the beginning back on YouTube. And we can send out this recording to the group email. So let me just share my screen so I can get the presentation up. And I also would like to let everyone know to feel free to write any questions into the chat box as we're going, so that you don't forget what your questions are, and I can get them all answered as we go, okay? All right, can everyone see the presentation? All right. So briefly, I just want everyone to know that for the last 10 years or so, maybe a little more, I've been practicing and teaching yoga, meditation, and also working as a health coach. And that is where my experience lies. So I'm not a medical doctor. I want everyone to know that, and to make sure that if you're taking this as medical advice, to make sure that you consult with your own medical doctor before you take any of these into consideration, any of what we're talking about today. Okay. You can all feel free to contact me at my email address, or I'm also going to be creating a Facebook group later today or maybe tomorrow and sending that out to the group email. And I want everyone to be as active as they can in this group so that we can all best support one another through this. Because if we're just checking in, once a month, it's going to be only so helpful. But if we're all checking in with each other, every day or every few days, it's going to be a lot more helpful for everyone involved. Okay. Now I'll start by just talking a bit about holistic health in general, and about how to create holistic change in one's life, and how to think about it from this perspective. So where is this? You can see my little pointer here. So what we'll be focusing on is mainly these 7 different tools for creating change in one's life: fasting, nutrition, exercise, work, meditation, sleep, and study. Our main focus, of course, here with this workshop that we're going to be going through over the next 3 months is going to be on the fasting, as well as on the refeeding, so the nutrition aspect. Though I don't want to, de-emphasize the importance of the others. We're, during this workshop, going to be mainly talking about the fasting and nutrition. You can always talk with me about the other aspects as you're coming up with your own goals and your own plans this coming week. Now, I wanted to briefly go over the holistic view of how chronic disease comes about in the first place. whether it's through traditional Chinese medicine or through Ayurvedic medicine or many other traditional holistic ways of thinking, disease always starts with stress and overwhelm, progresses towards digestive issues, hormonal and immune system issues, liver and skin issues, builds up into neurological and metabolic issues. And then as these metabolites build up in the nerves, as well as get backed up in the liver and in the digestive tract, eventually this leads to states of chronic disease and possibly even system failures of different sorts, depending on the individual. So in order to tackle these chronic diseases, at the root of the issue, we have to go about addressing these different tools that we have available to us, which include mainly these 7 different tools, though you might be able to think of others. Now, I just want to give people a chance to share their experience, if they have any, with what fasting is to them and why they practice fasting. So does anyone want to start? Please unmute yourself so everyone can hear you.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I can start. I got into this mode of fasting over the last 2-3 years, probably, because Shiv introduced us to this idea that fasting is good for you and can fix some of these chronic issues that people tend to have. So that's how I've been practicing it. And more lately, I've been trying to do it what they call time-restricted eating, or in fasting, alternate day fasting. I haven't really tried too much fasting, more than a couple of days. Yeah, I would say, that's my extent of what I've done. But I think when I was younger, it was hard for me to think about fasting. I was always hungry, it seemed like. Now it's much easier for me to do fasting, and I feel it gives me a lot of benefits. I feel much better from doing it. So
what do you feel the benefits have been for you?
Of fasting? Well, I hopefully have gained control over my weight. I'm not sure. I tend to eat less too, as compared to what I used to, and I eat more controlled. I used to be very fond of sweets, Indian sweets, and I had to cut that out pretty much. Well, I still have a sweet tooth, so I eat fruits and stuff like that, but I don't eat sweets anymore. And I always been in a habit of exercising. I used to do at least an hour of yoga, and then maybe a little bit of jogging and stuff like that. So I used to love to exercise. And then for some reason, for the last couple of years, I kind of just slacked off on it. So I'm going to getting back into that. Meditation is something that's not easy for me. I think some people find that very easy, but I don't find it that easy. I just have an easier time just going for a walk or exercising or something like that. I have a lot easier time with that. But the diet is definitely very good. And on the days when I'm doing, let's say, an all-day diet or more than a day diet, I find I sleep really well at night. So that definitely is another bonus from dieting. And that's about it, I think.
Does anybody else have anything to share about their experience with fasting?
Yeah, I did try it on my own, thanks to some encouragement from a colleague of mine. And it was nice. I was losing some good weight, but that's when I kind of discover, what I call the body's addiction to food, right? I mean, it's so intense that uh, you know it was hard to kind of keep up. And yeah, so I lost that battle, so to speak. So here I am back, preparing myself to hopefully, get back into the battlefield and hopefully prevailing over that addictive food addiction part of that story. So
Great, thank you. Craig, did you have something to share?
Well, I haven't had much experience with fasting for any length of time, but it seems like oftentimes the less I eat, the more energy I have. It works in sort of an opposite way of what we're told or what would expect, so I'm interested to learn more about what beyond what little I've done could produce in terms of energy, mental alertness. I guess the lack of food sort of puts you in this sort of more of a hunter type of mindset. Body feels more energized, mind is clear. Where am I going to go, or who am I have to fight? So the opposite response of what we're told or what the advertisements tell us, eat this pizza and you'll feel great. Not so much, miss it and you might feel great, and you won't miss it at all. And then like you were just saying, the addiction, you can sort of break the addiction to this type of food, or the food doesn't control you so much anymore. You control what you do with it, which is great. Anyhow, that's all from here.
Couple days ago, I just have to share, three of us, we did a water fast. Was it easy? No. Up to 6 p.m., it was like, when is it going to be night, And because we were drinking water. And then a friend of mine said, you can have lemon juice. And I asked Shiv, should I squeeze lemon? And that helped. It's called Nimbu Pani. Just put lemon and some salt, and that was helpful. But as it was 7 p.m. at night, it became easier. And then, thank God, it went through the night. And in the morning, we were back to eating, not just have coffee or whatever. And it went through. So we decided we'll do it maybe once a week or twice a week, a water fast. And Shiv, please keep an eye on Maribel and Raghu. They are supposed to come. Just make sure we don't miss them out.
Okay, yeah. I'm watching out too.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And I'll add in. So I fasted once before with you, and it's difficult. I mean, it's tough. For me, it's information, finding out and being aware. And I'm more aware of some things that I eat, how they, maybe, don't agree with me. I found out that actually have with the water, we have one of the, they call them the gas machines, just to gas up the water. And I find out doing that, I drink a lot more water using that than just the regular water alone. So it's kind of being aware. And also I do have to watch what I'm eating, but it is difficult. I'll say that.
Margie, did you have anything to share?
Well, when I was younger, I did many different types of fasting, even up to 14 days, the master cleanse. All of those fasting years ago were very popular. So I probably did all of them. And it was more for spirituality, I think I was doing it for. and just, it just felt good because you didn't have to prepare food. All you did was drinking water or whatever. So you had time to, get into more spiritual, meditation and things like that. But now that I'm older, I'm finding it's more difficult to fast. I haven't done, and I wouldn't do those long fasts anymore. I would like to do weekend fasts sometimes, maybe every other month or so. I think I could do that and probably benefit. I've been doing the intermittent fasting and having a lot of, I'm constantly, follow different Dr. Gundry, Dr. Hyman, Dr. Lai, I think, and they all have different approaches to the food part of the intermittent fasting. So it's very confusing. So I thought, I can't, it's too hard to buy a whole list of food from this doctor, and then this doctor saying, no, these are the foods, for fat burning, and then it's so I thought I need to get into more of a group with other people and get more support and have all these questions answered, because it's, I don't know, it's a battlefield out there when it comes to nutrition and food. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing. All right, good to know where everyone is at. All right, 1 second, let me just share this. All right. So I've personally had about maybe 10 years or so of experience with all sorts of different kinds of fasting. And to me, what fasting is simply, more broadly expressed, is a removal of something that we're used to experiencing on a daily basis. And so you can even fast from technology, or from using your cell phone, or from using Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And you can fast, most commonly people practice fasting from food, right? Because often food is our biggest addiction. And often what we're doing with our fasting is practicing creating space between us and whatever it is that our habits are, or we may be dependent on. And so this fasting is used to create balance in our life. And in terms of food, this may be related to hormonal balance. So fasting can help with regulating the blood sugar. It can help with maintaining the gut health, and managing stress levels in all sorts of different ways. And also getting better sleep. And all of this can affect our hormones. We'll get more into the specifics of the hormones maybe next month or the third month, because I don't want to get too deep into that right now. But eventually we'll get into that information. For now, I just want to keep that fact that what we're using is fasting to create balance, and to create hormonal balance, in particular when we're talking about fasting from our food that we're eating. Okay. Now, I wanted to talk about some specific examples of intermittent fasting before we start get a little bit into talking about how to refeed with different foods. We're just going to talk about the fasting, which is when to eat. Now, up here at the top, I've put a few different protocols that are very common. And there are others also. But first, especially for beginners who are new to fasting, we'd want to start with time-restricted eating. And within this time-restricted eating, window, we can have calorie restriction or not have calorie restriction. So you can use this in different ways. But common fasting windows might be, let's say, 8-16. So eating in an 8-hour window and then fasting for 16 hours. And you can switch this up all the way to, let's say, 1 meal a day, OMAD, where you're just eating one relatively large meal per day. All of this would be considered time-restricted eating. And of course, depending on the amount of calories you're eating within that window of time, it could be just the normal amount of calories that keeps you at a maintenance body weight, or it could be a restricted amount of calories, or it could be a greater amount of calories, depending on if you're trying to gain or lose weight. For people who have a little bit more experience with fasting, we have other methods of fasting that are a little bit more intense and might stimulate a little bit greater or in terms of the speed of change of the body. Alternate day fasting, in which you'd say, let's say eat a normal amount of calories on the first day and then fast on the second day. Eat a normal amount of calories on the third day and then fast on the fourth day. On fasting days, optionally, I mean, you can choose to eat either no calories at all and just be on water, or have up to 500 calories, or let's say like 25% of your normal caloric daily requirements. For even more advanced fasting practitioners, they might want to incorporate an even longer fast into their weekly schedule, which might be, 36 or 48 or 72-hour fasts once, or maybe if you're doing a 36-hour fast, maybe even twice per week. When you're getting to designing your own fasting parameters and making your choices when you're fasting, these parameters are fluctuating. So there are no general rules that you will have to follow. It's more that you can try different things and learn how your body responds. So it's more really about just generating awareness of how your particular situation responds to these different parameters. And so this is just the self-scientific process of testing out and then learning from that test, right? So especially if you're on medications for some sort of chronic condition, it's important to be careful with this. You will definitely, if you're on medications, want to check in with your doctor to see how those medications may or may not need to be adjusted while you're fasting, because often people, when they're fasting, will become much more sensitive to their medications and might either need less of it or just not need to take it at all. And you'll have to, work that out between you and your doctor. But if you're not on medications, it's a little simpler. And these are the basic parameters of what one might want to choose when they're fasting. During this fasting period, you may want to drink water, of course. And then beyond that, it would be an option to include electrolytes, black coffee, and various other sorts of health supplements like spirulina or chlorella, MSM, methyl sulfonyl methane, or other sorts of detoxification supplements, as well as optionally including a small amount of other calories. You don't have to, but again, this is something that you'll need to know how your body responds, and judge based on your own experience. So then we get to refeeding, which is, of course, in my opinion, it's just as important as the fasting. So as you're refeeding, what's important is that you're using this as an opportunity to make slow, stable changes to the diet over the long term, over the very long term. So this is where we get into incremental change. And this could be incremental change to 3 of the most important aspects of your life: food, work, and rest. So the parameters for this incremental change we'll get to now. One sec. The doggy is like really, can you take care of her? Sorry. So the incremental change parameters might include cutting something out or adding something in. And again, these are things that you would have to choose individually based on your own situation, and based on your own prioritization of what needs to be cut out or what should be added in. If you need help with that, of course, you can, contact me, but some examples might be cutting out processed food, cutting out refined oils like seed oils, cutting out refined sugar, cutting out or just limiting the amount of takeout food or restaurant or food or delivery, adding in possibly more liquids, more greens, probiotics, specific foods that your body needs, or other supplements. So to give an example of, let's say, the first month of someone's intermittent fasting cycle, where one would, let's see, be establishing a baseline intermittent fasting protocol. I'll just give an example of my hypothetical person who's works as a coder for a tech company and is, studying video production on the side. And this person should be focusing on, again, these 7 main tools, right? And again, I'm mostly in this presentation talking about the fasting and the nutrition aspects, mainly the fasting. But in this example, of course, I'm trying to cover all 7 of these for this individual. And in your own goal, it will be important that you also cover all 7 of these. So they're prioritizing their sleep, first of all. So 6 to 8 hours of quality sleep. I gave this person a nice, 8.5 hours of time for sleep. 15 minutes of meditation upon waking, 30 minutes of yoga and walking the dog every morning, gym, 30 minutes 3 times a week for more high intensity interval training or something like this, as well as following a 16-8 intermittent fasting protocol with a daily eating window between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. And then that incremental change focus being cutting out all seed oils and refined sugars. So this is just an example of, let's say, one individual's first month goal setting. To talk about alternate day fasting, I wanted to give an example of something that's maybe a little one step more intense than this first example, where, let's say, the first day is a fasting day, second day is a refeed day where you're eating a normal amount of calories, third day is a fasting day, fourth day is a refeed day where you're eating a normal amount of calories. And again, you can continue this basically until you reach your goal. I just gave, brief example of examples of what one could possibly be eating during the fasting day with, let's say, black coffee, an electrolyte supplement, a little bit of spirulina and chlorella, and then lots of water, right? And then on the refeed days, having things like eggs, some meat, some rice, vegetables. This is just an example. Yeah.
Good question, Shiv.
Yeah.
Some of the literature that I read will say, you talk about tea, being something that is that people recommend that you take. I haven't seen a mention of tea in your presentation thus far. So do you have any reservations about tea as being
Like
part-
during fasting times?
Yeah.
Well, just like with black coffee, I just gave that as an example of a drink that you could have, a liquid that you could have that doesn't have calories,
Mhm.
but it has liquid and antioxidants and other things that your body might like while you're fasting to help
Okay.
with lowering stress levels. And tea, herbal teas, other things like that could be included, as long as you're not, sweetening it or using lots of cream or milk or
something.
whatever in it. Yeah.
So having any dairy components would kind of bust the fasting part of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it doesn't have very many calories in it, you're not going to be changing the fast that much. It does change the fast a little bit.
Okay.
Having black coffee versus just having water is going to change the fast. But you can try both ways and see how your body responds and see which way you prefer. Personally, like for me, I don't like to have black coffee, because then I find that when the caffeine wears off, I get like too hungry and cloudy in the mind, and I prefer not to have that up and down.
Okay.
So it's up to you.
Yeah, the other question I had was that Lata did mention about using lemon juice as to add along with water.
Yes.
I've heard people talk about adding apple cider vinegar to your water and stuff like that. Is that something that is kosher in terms of how you recommended how people do this stuff?
Yeah, both of these, if you add some of these into water, they're not going to be adding very many calories. And they will, slightly change the effects of the fast, but not necessarily in a bad way.
Okay.
It could be helpful. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
How long are you on this fast? Is it just for these 4 days, or is it longer?
This is just an example just over these 4 days, but I mean, I'm talking about, let's say, like, as we get to the next slide, I'm talking about just how to plan cycles just over a lifespan. So it's not really like you get to an end and then you're done. It's more about, this is just a practice that you're integrating into your life.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then you plan it as you like, according to how you're living your life. Right? So not everybody's fasting cycle is going to be the same, but just like everybody needs to eat, everybody needs to fast. And it's just a part of maintenance, just like sleeping and meditation and exercise, So on this, as we get to this slide now, we get into like slightly longer cycles that I'm talking about, right? So here I'm talking about daily cycles, and here I'm talking about weekly and monthly cycles. Right. So, and as an example of how one could cycle through a week, through an entire month, week by week, right? One could, let's say, for more of an intermediate person who has a good amount of experience with the intermittent fasting, On 1 week, do let's say week 1, do 1 meal a day, with each day having about a 500 calorie restriction under baseline. Second week, eating a 16-8 with no calorie restriction at all, no limit. Third week, again, lowering calories, having 1 meal a day with a 500 calorie restriction daily. Last week, again, going back to 16-8, 8-hour eating window and no calorie restriction. All right, this is just an example. I'm not telling you guys what to do, just trying to cover some ways you can think about this. Now, again, we can talk about monthly cycles now and how to plan over monthly, longer periods of time. So again, a slightly more advanced schedule. One might start off with the first month with the alternate day fasting, right? As we had during this daily example, given the alternate fasting schedule over 4 days, right? This would basically be, you're just following this alternate day fasting schedule. Every other day, you're fasting for a month. Second month, you go back to this 16-8 and 1 meal a day, just like we talked about here in this monthly schedule. All right. Third week, go back to alternate day fasting. And then the fourth week, you're just doing 16-8 with no calorie restriction. Right. Sometimes the reason you want to go back to a maintenance diet where there's no calorie restriction is just to prevent plateaus. Yeah. Now, when we get to goal setting, I want to talk first about just an example of how a beginner may start out by planning monthly goals. So a monthly cycle, and then the daily cycle for each week. And then we'll talk about how you will all be planning your own cycles for yourself with my help if you need it. Now, so as an example now, we have the first month of just establishing baseline intermittent fasting routine. So every single day you're doing 16-8 intermittent fasting with just the long-term goal of when you're refeeding, you're not going to be eating the seed oils or refined sugars, and just keeping it simple like that. Again, this is just for beginners trying to get to know intermittent fasting and build up some experience.
Ishu, quick question.
Yeah, please.
Sesame seed oil would be a seed oil?
Yes.
Okay. Would olive oil be a better option than sesame seed oil, you think?
It would be when you're I'm talking mainly about cooking oils, right?
Yeah, okay.
So sesame seed oil, it has a lot of medical benefits, but generally speaking, you don't want to be cooking with it.
Okay.
So you can like use it on skin and hair, and you can use it to create different medicines by absorbing herbs into it, right? Using it to pull the constituents of herbs into it, and then taking that, but you don't want to cook with it, because when you're cooking with seed oils, it ends up changing the structure of the oil and creates something different.
I see.
So for cooking oils, I mean, like the oils like olive oil can be used at a lighter temperature. You know, oils like butter can again be used at a lighter temperature, and at a higher temperature you can use something like ghee, clarified butter, or all coconut oil.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about peanut oil?
No, that's seed oil.
That's the
Generally,
best.
yeah, it'd be best to avoid.
Yeah, just
peanut
wanted
oil.
everybody to hear that.
Uh-huh. Cool.
So again, this is just in this example for this individual who's trying to lower specifically these causes of inflammation for their issues.
Sorry, Shiv, I have to keep interrupting you with more
That's
questions.
okay, please.
Yeah, so refined sugars, I understand. Would honey be a good, sweetening substitute for refined sugar, you think? Or even honey is like, in terms of sugar, equally, no-go, so to speak.
If you're I would say if you're trying to lose weight,
Mhm.
if that is a part of your goal, then probably staying away from it would be your best option. Though once you're reintroducing more carbohydrates back into the diet, it might be one of your better sweetener options.
I see. Okay.
But monk fruit is probably a good option.
Yeah, monk fruit would be no sugar at all.
I think we should also mention about Splenda and the artificial sweeteners, which are also bad, right? Even though I take it in my tea, it's just, or coffee, but you tell us that that's really not that good, right?
Well, what I find is that if one is trying to let go of the craving for sweet taste,
Mhm.
it helps not to have the artificial sweeteners at all, at least for a period of time. Otherwise, when we have the artificial sweeteners, then we just kind of want more of that sweet taste.
Yeah.
And that either comes in the form of artificial sweeteners or the craving for other sweet things that actually have more sugar in it, more carbohydrates. Yeah. So are there any other questions related to that? We can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself.
Well, I just wanted to ask you if, when you say seed oils, are you talking about like corn oil and in addition to peanut oil, things like that?
Yes, yeah. I'm talking about corn oil, canola oil, if there's something just called vegetable oil. Most of these oils that just take a lot of refining to produce. Soybean oil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so, Mary, we all have to, he has taught us how to look when we buy the salad dressings.
Yes.
We end up buying very tasty salad dressings and eating with healthy vegetables. But that has got a lot of that bad oils, and he has taught us, Shiv has taught us how to look at that, not to buy those kind of salad dressings with vegetable oil.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's say for this individual, hypothetical individual, for the first month, this is their goal, is to establish, first of all, cutting the seed oils and refined sugars, and then also establishing a daily 16/8 intermittent fasting baseline. Second month, the goal is to introduce a slightly higher intensity of fasting experience. And so we're focusing on the 24, so where there's a 4-hour eating window. And the way we'd introduce this is by starting out, again, with the day 1. You start out with the 24. Day 2, go back to the 16/8 baseline. Day 3, go back to the 24. Day 4, back to the 16/8 baseline. And again, keep alternating until you get some experience with this 4-hour eating window and what that feels like. And that's, again, now that's the goal of the second month. Again, the same, just keeping out the seed oils and refined sugars is the a long-term goal for this whole 4-month period. Now, when we get to the 3rd month, we're going to be introducing a new kind of fasting experience, which is the 1 meal a day fasting experience. And again, we're going to be introducing this on alternate days. So we start out with 1 meal a day on day 1. Day 2, go back to the 16-8 baseline. Day 3, 1 meal a day. Day 4, back to the 16-8 baseline. Again, continuing on alternate days. And then on the 4th month, we're going to introduce that last fasting experience, slightly more intense, that we talked about before, which is the alternate day fasting. So again, we're going to be starting out with that alternate day fast, and then the 2nd day back to the 16-8 fasting baseline, and then alternate day fast back to the 16-8 fasting baseline. So on the alternate day fast, again, for this person, they would be able to choose whether or not they want to go completely 0 calories or up to 500 calories on that fasting day. So that would be how we would be setting up this 4-month period for this beginner fasting to get experience, and not just in the 16-8 fasting, but also in the 4-hour eating window, in 1 meal a day, and then in the alternate day fasting over a 4-month period. So now, for all of you, what I would like us all to be focusing on now is setting our goals and thinking about what our goals are for ourselves for the next 3 months as we go through this together. What do you want to start off with in terms of establishing for your baseline protocol? And you can even go, as easy as, let's say, 10-hour eating window for your baseline intermittent fasting protocol. If you'd like, you can start out with an 8-hour eating window. And if you have some more experience, you can go with something tougher, and that's up to you to decide. And then you can set your monthly goals for what you would like to get some experience with in terms of new practices that you don't actually have any experience with yet. Beyond that, it would also be important to plan out the complementary tools in your life that will help with sustaining this. So not just the fasting, but also what you're going to be eating, exercise, your work, meditation, sleep, and what you're studying. I would like to encourage all of you to take this next week to plan this all out so you can start next Sunday on the 9th. And just hold yourself accountable for that commitment. Again, if you have any questions, you can send me an email, or I'll be sending out a link to the Facebook group soon. And I really encourage everyone to be as active as possible with that group, not just with questions and concerns, but also with progress and just sharing your excitement of what you're going through. Okay.
And make sure they keep their doctors in the loop,
And yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, please, especially if you are on medications for anything, please make sure that your doctor knows what you're doing, and that you take appropriate blood work before, during, and after.
When you're talking about the 500 calorie, when you're doing the alternate fasting, and you say you can do up to 500 calories on that, the fasting day,
Yes.
should you do it in the 500 calories in one meal, or is it best to divide it, or
It would be best to do it in one meal.
one meal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why
But
not divide it, Shiv?
You could technically, but it would be best to do it in one meal. That way you just give your body, time
Okay.
to go back into fasting. Otherwise, if you spread it out over a longer period of time, it's going to keep pulling your body temporarily out of fasting, which is, what you're trying to help the body to stay in the first place. So if you could keep that, like, during the fasting day, try to keep those 500 calories to like really high nutrient dense, but also easy to digest things. So like spirulina, chlorella, some fruit, like a little bit of fruit, some berries. These things are just easily digested and provide your body. And I know the spirulina and chlorella don't taste great, but they do. But they do help you to sort of deal with the stress of fasting really, really well and manage that.
Yeah, it stinks that those two things, they stink. I can tell you. Paul, have you had it?
Is there, well, I think I've seen it, but I haven't had it. Is there any, I mean, is it better to do eat that in the morning or, a few hours before you're going to bed? I mean, is there any rule to anything like that, or?
Are you talking about like during the fasting days?
Yeah, the fasting days, that 500
Like, cause so like
calories.
during non-fasting days, when you are having your eating window, when you're intermittent fasting, it would be best to wait a few hours after waking up before you start eating, and then also to stop eating like a few hours before you go to bed. But during the fasting days, with that, if you are choosing to have like a small meal, it would be also best, to wait a few hours after you wake up, and then also not have that small meal close to bedtime.
Can you do a protein shake?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
definitely. Like
So
a whey
also-
protein shake or something.
Also, Shiv, when we did the water fast, you gave me that drink. Remember when I was having nimbu pani, lemon juice,
Yeah.
lemon, homemade lemon. There was another thing that you said that you could have this if you're thirsty or if you want to quench your thirst. What was that thing?
Oh,
That was good.
that was basically an electrolyte supplement, which is also, you can also, if you'd like, put electrolytes into your water, which can help when you're fasting to remain more satiated and not get cravings. The supplement that I have here, it's just something that I use sometimes when I'm fasting. It's called Element, LMNT. And it's just like electrolytes and some flavoring that you put in your water and sip on when you're fasting.
It's very good, actually. Very satisfying.
How do you
Well,
spell it again? What
it's just like the letters LMNT. Element.
Oh, okay.
I just got a pack of that off of Amazon, and it works well. As an alternative to that, you can just make your own electrolyte drink just by mixing a little bit of sea salt, a little bit of Epsom salt, a little bit of baking soda, and a little bit of something that's available in stores. It's called no salt, which is it's a potassium salt.
I'll get her.
And just mix like a pinch of each of these into your water with a squeeze of lemon or lime, and that can be an alternative.
I find it very interesting that you include study as a part of this, this very, all these other. So just curious, how does study, feature into this list? And it's very interesting.
Well, these are just the different aspects of holistic health that just I've come to in my life. Study being an important part because I find it's really important for the mind as well as for the body to continuously be learning. And when the mind and the body is continuously learning, then there's a sharpness as well as an ability to learn and also to unlearn that comes with just continuing that study practice. And I think that's just something that is a part of an important part of everybody's health routine, that they continue studying something always.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. One of the other things is that, in spite of major cajoling, I've refused to, join any Facebook or for that matter, WhatsApp. Okay. So
Yeah,
you're unlikely to find me in a Facebook group. I don't have
I
a
understand.
Facebook account. So yeah, it sucks up more time than I have to give. So, that's my reservation about that. So
I understand. I mean, you can either if you have troubles, you can just email me.
I would.
Or if you want, you can create like a temporary account that you can just use for this group while we're doing it, and then remove it when you're done.
Yeah, maybe something. Maybe I would do something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah, maybe that I will try that. So
Okay.
honest to God, I haven't tried Facebook till date. My whole family, on both sides, my cousins on my father's side and my wife, they're mad at me because I wouldn't either get on Facebook or
Yeah, I understand the resistance to it.
Yeah.
For the same reason I haven't created like a Twitter or a Instagram or any of these other ones, but I do use Facebook just to post out information, though I don't like spending much time on there. I understand that.
Yeah, even my friends, right, from my college days, they haven't succeeded me in getting me on either. Any of them.
All right, so does anyone have any questions right now that come to mind on the goals or on the fasting or anything else related to it?
Raksha is going to come back and then ask. She's gone somewhere, left for a little bit. She'll be back, hopefully, with questions.
Okay.
Raghu
Well,
left.
nobody has any questions. I'm just going to end the recording for now. I'll post this up for anybody that missed today. And if you all need to rewatch any of this for your own information, it'll be there. Okay.
Mary, you haven't asked any questions.